Jose Berlanga, welcome to the conversation today.
Hello, John. It's great to be here. How are you?
I am fantastic. It's great to be with you. You're joining us from the Houston area. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about the truth about business growth, lessons learned, wins and losses, and really that raw truth. And, you've lived it. I'm super thrilled to have the chance to sit down with you and to have a real raw conversation about what you've learned throughout your career. As we get started, I wanted to share Jose's bio with everybody. At only 4 years old, at only 4 years old, Jose Berlanga found himself at death's door following a devastating accident that left his body covered in third-degree burns. Determined not to let tragedies solely define his life story, Jose set out to make a name for himself. He has achieved multimillionaire status for four distinct times in four separate industries: an import-export company for machinery, for the petrochemical industry, investments including a chain of Italian coffee bars, a residential construction company, and lastly, land development and construction. Each success was a feat of starting from ground zero and meticulously building his wealth anew. I think it's super interesting that you've done this completely distinctly four separate times. You're going to kind of walk us through what that's looked like, to kind of pull yourself up by your bootstraps to build success, what that's looked like for you to do that from a resiliency standpoint, but also what that's looked like to build successful business, to build successful teams. I'm thrilled to have you sit down with me to talk about all this. Before we dive on in, anything you would like to share by way of your background or personal context, and then we'll launch into the conversation.
Well, sounds good. Sounds good. Again, it's great to be here. Just listening to that intro is exhausting just to think about the life events that have taken place over the decades. Yes. I can honestly say that I am an expert in dealing with adversity, in dealing with setbacks.
Mm,
That has been my life, dealing with problems, dealing with issues. That develops an ability to solve problems, just like practicing any other science. The problem solving in life, in real life, gradually develops an ability for you to move forward, to deal with it, to get over it, and move on to the next one. And they never stop. It is just a game of life dealing with these issues. You named some of the industries where I've succeeded. I'm proud that I've achieved some level of accomplishments in a few industries. But what not a lot of people see are the other dozens of attempts that I made,
mm,
uh, exhausting attempts to build a company, to start a company, to work on a concept endlessly that did not work. It's the
right.
nature. It's the nature of business. It is. Do we really want to know the truth? That's the question of all questions. As we investigate, perhaps trying to become an entrepreneur. To some people, it's a scary thought. To some others, it's just a natural progression of your career. There's something to be said about personalities. There are personalities who really wish to do that and they're able to do it. Some others are more conservative. They prefer the path of a more simple, more calm, more consistent, safer life. Entrepreneurship is a life of uncertainty. It's a life of pressure, of stress, of surprises. Every day is new.
Hmm.
It has its ups and downs. I honestly have to say that in our world of the business world, there are definitely more bad days and good days. There are more bad moments and good moments, but those good ones really make up for the rest of all of the toughness of this particular lifestyle. I call it. It's not even an industry. It's not even a career. It's a life choice where you live to design your own future, your own success. There are no limits, but the ones that you set out yourself to achieve. And certainly the secret is persistence. to just not take no for an answer, to continue no matter what kind of problems. I'm going to say that there hasn't been many moments difficult moments when I wasn't ready to walk away from business altogether and just take an easier route. So is it part of the process? Yes, it is difficult. It is excruciating at times, trying to juggle all
Mm-hmm.
of the different things that owning and building a business represents. But the trick is to take a little break and snap out of it and get back and keep going. I am too curious to really, and I have been my whole life, to want to see what's on the other side of all of these problems. I want to learn what success is all about, and that's what keeps you
Yeah.
going.
Can I ask you about that? So that snapping out of it piece, because yes, you're absolutely right. Life is beautiful, but life is hard. Life throws things at you. It always will. And it doesn't matter, you know, if you're wealthy, if you're poor, everyone has challenges. And I get it. Like, if someone's starving on the street, they're gonna say, well, I'll take the rich person's problems any day of the week. I just want food. I get it. Like there are different types of problems, but the reality is everyone does have problems and everyone struggles. They're just different. But they are different types of problems. Yes. But when life throws you a challenge, when life throws you a problem and beats you down, and it will, regardless of where you're at in your own journey, it will throw you a new problem. When it beats you down and when you're on the ground, how have you like gone through that mental kind of mindset shift and reset to get back up again? Because you said it, you've had these four distinct like super successful um uh business ventures, the four times that it's just gone super well, but for every success there are behind the scenes other failures, or maybe I should say, rather than failures, there are other countless learning opportunities that have then been leveraged into the successes that you've had. And I can say the same thing in my own life. Like, sometimes people will ask me, John, you know, I can't say that I've had the same level of success you've had, but people will look at me and they're like, John, you have a successful career. How do you do all the things that you do? Why does everything always work out for you? And I'm like, well, no, like I have way more failures than I ever have successes. I have way more rejections than I ever have, you know, acceptances or people saying yes. I have way more no's than yeses, but
Yeah.
it's a matter of like all of that stuff happens behind the scenes. All that stuff happens. I mean, I probably have at least 10 to 1 like failures to successes that people see. And so like what do you do when you get those knockdowns to like do the mental reset so that you can respond in a positive way when frankly a lot of people just get discouraged or they give up or they just say, it's not for me, I'm just going to go try something that's a little bit more stable, a little bit more secure, a little bit more safe.
Yeah. No, no, no. Well, that's a great subject and a great question. In order to be sustainable in a career, you need a reason, you need a purpose in order to continue. That's perhaps the number one tool, let's call it. And it doesn't have to be just the money. It can be your family. It can be the achievement, the mission, the objective. You have to focus on the objective, and you can look at it. You nailed it. It's not called. I don't necessarily call them failures. They're setbacks. They're obstacles, bumps on the road, because I always say that by default, we will succeed as long as we don't quit. We can have bad
Yeah.
days, we can have bad businesses, we can have businesses that just don't get anywhere, and we have to move on to the other one and to the next one in further attempts. But we haven't truly failed as long as we don't throw the towel and completely walk away from it. It's sort of, you can have any analogy, sort of like in a game, you can lose a few points, you can be behind on the scoring at any given point, but the game is not over, and life is the game. As long as you continue and keep pushing, and the moment that life pushes back, you just keep pushing forward, because that's life's job. It's going to push back.
Mm,
It's not going to make it easier. And you also said something important, which is, I don't care who you are, if you're rich, if you're poor, if you're good looking, if you come from a great, wonderful family, we all have problems. We all have issues. The brain is a complicated thing that even when you have all of the things that appear to be the basic needs in order to achieve happiness, it's not, doesn't quite work that way. The brain finds other things to worry about and stress over and complicate your existence. You need to find those objectives within yourself, in that ability to find the purpose for living and moving forward. Um, I always say that you don't necessarily need passion. You don't necessarily need to find something that you enjoy doing in order to be successful. You just need to have the willingness, the resilience to want to get somewhere, to want to become successful. It's still at the level that I am. I don't necessarily work because I enjoy everything that I do. There
mm,
are many things within my activities that I'm not too crazy about, but I do them because I see that they lead to
mm,
my objectives. They are part of the process of me becoming the best version of the person that I want to be. So I start ignoring, to the best of my ability. I'm not going to say that I don't have moments again where things get very tough and I get annoyed, and I don't want to keep doing what I'm doing, and I want to change the course of my activities.
right.
But at some point, you have to realize why you're doing what you're doing, and and find that strength. So is it easy? Absolutely not. Every person has to find a way to do it in their own way. You have to learn to understand yourself, what it is that wakes you up in the morning, what gives you motivation, what gives you incentives to keep going. You have to know your weaknesses. You have to know your strengths. You have to be honest with yourself and identify them. Sometimes we lie to ourselves and we think that we want something for the wrong reasons. And when
Mm,
that doesn't happen, we get disappointed, discouraged, sad, and we quit because we weren't fighting for the right objectives. We weren't fighting the right battles. So identifying those little by little starts giving you a reason for moving forward. I don't always know what gives me that strength as part of your identity, part of your personality, and it takes a little bit of practice too. So,
yeah, no, I think you're right. I think we often don't understand that about ourselves because we just kind of get into our day-to-day routine. We just do what we do, and we're so influenced by the world around us. Like society tells us these things are important. XYZ is important. The norms, our friend groups, our families, the community around us, society as a whole says XYZ is important, and we just think that's important. So we just do what everyone else does. And by and large, that may be fine. But when it comes to doing things that are really hard, that will not sustain us. So if we're trying to start and run a business, that is really hard. Most businesses don't last 5 years, and it's because it's really hard. So you may have a great idea. It may be a super genius idea that the world needs that you're the first one to ever come up with. That's not enough. Like you have to work your butt off to be able to bring that to market and to be able to help people become aware of it. And it's not enough to have the great idea. And so just doing it because it's interesting to you, because it's fun, whatever, like what's your deeper why? And it can't just be something because whatever surface level thing, because whatever that surface level motivation is the world tells you is important. Like what's your deeper why? And that's, yeah,
yeah.
like you got to dig deeper, and Yeah, in my experience, a lot of people don't really know until push comes to shove and they're really forced to learn what that deeper why is for them. Um, I mean,
You're very right. You're very right.
any idea like because I hate like I don't want people to have to wait until like life throws them such a big curveball that they're forced to hit rock bottom to figure that out. Like how can like we like proactively discover that for ourselves without have being compelled to like figure it out? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's all being introspective. It's attempting to learn, sitting down for a minute and learning a little bit about ourselves. This is something that I do very often. I'm a deep thinker. I recommend people to spend a little time with themselves, just identifying, getting to know oneself is very important because the definition of success should be it is and it should be very different for all of us.
Yeah, yeah,
Society tells us, put success in a box. You have to have this, you have to have money, you have to have a certain type of career, and it defines it very clearly, but it's meaningless to many of us if you don't identify what it is that makes you happy. Who are you? What do you want out of life? What are you willing to give in exchange of achieving the goals and the dreams that you have? We are all born not only with certain characteristics, but in a certain environment. And that environment tends to play a big part of who we become. And we end up living a life that we perceive to be the right one. How many of us have had mentors, parents, older brothers and sisters, family and friends that guide us through a life that we don't necessarily want or wish to have for the rest of our lives? We become an attorney because my dad was an attorney, and I become a
yeah,
doctor because my or I get into finance because that's what I've been told. And we follow those footsteps. Even now, it's getting worse and worse with the social media, with Instagram and Facebook and all of these tools that lead us to believe that success has one face, one format, and that is a mistake. What I recommend is for you to have the clarity to identify what does it mean to you? What do you want to achieve out of your life? And the way I do this here is a good tool. I sit around and I transport myself 20, 30 years from now, and I start thinking about where do I want to be? What kind of stories I want to tell? Who do I want to look back and say that I was in the things that I achieved? And that is the person that I want to become. The one that I know it's going to make me happy and proud. And it's not about money. It's not about success. It's about the path that you follow to get to that point where you're going to feel proud of yourself. Now, of course, there's something to be said about the combination of finding that path and being able to support yourself. Nowadays, we're
yeah.
all into finding that passion and being happy. There's a new generation of people who just want to be happy and have an endless amount of pleasure. But we forget the other extreme, which is not all about joy and happiness and pleasure and relaxation. You also have to support yourselves and your families and be able to turn yourself into a good member, a productive member of society. So you have to blend those two. You don't have to reach any level of, again, what people perceive as success. You have to be successful within yourself, be able to support yourself, be able to have the lifestyle that you want, and be able to support it. So finding the easiest way and the most comfortable way of getting there takes a little bit of time for you to think about it and make those decisions without being influenced. Giving, for example, now that I look back and I spend a lot of time helping others, mentoring and giving advice, I'm very careful in the way that I dispense this type of information because one thing is what I believe will make you happy, and something else is what it's truly going to turn you into an inner give you that inner peace and provide you with that happiness. So you even then be careful. On the other side, be careful whose advice you take. Even if they are people who you may look up to, they may necessarily not feel or want the same things that you do. So
Right.
listen, take advice, but always make your own conclusions as to where you see your life headed.
Yeah, great advice. Great advice. And you're absolutely right. Like getting advice from trusted advisors. I'm a big believer in kind of like surrounding yourself with people you trust, having your own personal board of advisors, so to speak. Great, great idea. But ultimately, you have to still make your own decisions. You still have to ultimately decide what is best for you. And you can't just outsource that responsibility. You can't just outsource, your motivations. You can't outsource, what's important to you. And I think people do that all the time. People, whether it's I don't know, whether it's like a political party or a religion or whatever, they just say, what matters to other people, that's going to be what matters to me. And that's a shortcut that sometimes kind of works for people, but in the long run, I don't think it's really going to work. Like and it may be that you have most alignment, like I know religion works for people, and I consider myself a spiritual person, but like you may have like 90% alignment with whatever like religious community that you're a part of, but you personally need to decide how your values and your motivations align with that community, right? You can't just wholesale outsource, that to them. Like you have to make that decision for yourself, or a political party, or a friend group, or like whatever it is. And I think the same thing applies when you get to the workplace, with an organization you're working with, if you have a team that you're working with. When you're trying to find meaning and purpose, and you're trying to collaborate effectively with other people, it's an ongoing personal journey that you have to take personal ownership over. And that that can be scary, I think, for people, because as soon as you take personal ownership, that means you also take personal responsibility. And people don't always want personal responsibility, because then if something doesn't work, or it doesn't work out the way you want it to, then you can't like blame other people for quote unquote failures. But like you just said, it's not a failure if as long as you just don't give up. Like if there's a setback, you didn't fail. You just learn, and then you grow, and then you move forward. And so I think a lot of this is just reframing how we view our progression in life. And we're never done until we're done trying. So Jose, I note the time. This has just been such a fun conversation, and I would love to talk to you all day, but I know you have a busy schedule, and I need to let you get going with your busy day. Before we start to wrap things up, I wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, your team, where they can find out more about how to work with you in the future, and then give us a final word on the topic for today.
Absolutely. Thanks again, John. And yes, I can. I'm easily found. joseberlanga.com. I am old school, where I haven't done much in the social media world. I'm beginning to adapt to it. That's been a tough one for me, coming from a different generation, but I understand that that's the new way to live. I'm going to start doing much more videos and interviews and presentations, conferences, and things like that I truly enjoy. So look out for much more to come. And just to wrap things up, I agree with you. Be accountable for yourself. Be responsible for your actions. No one can make you happy. No one can turn you into an ambitious person. No one can provide you with the inner peace that you can give to yourself. Know that you own your life. Be confident. Be very, very secure about who you are, what you want, where you're headed. Don't let others confuse you or blur the path towards your success and your happiness. this is something that we all tend to do at some point. We think that I love your sweatshirt, by the way. You are enough. I think that needs to be the statement to wrap it up. You are enough for the world, for yourself, and then some. So don't ever take people's opinions and allow them to affect the outcome of your life and the path of your success.
Awesome. Jose, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, to get connected, find out more about what Jose can do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you